So I'm just going to start popping all these different questions in, just kind of like some topics for today. So I'm thinking that might help a little bit instead of just going, what is this? What is that? Tell me what this is. So I'm hoping maybe this will just get a little bit of some ideas for you to start thinking about. Because today we're going to start talking about designing logos. Okay, and do a couple more. Okay. Bam. Okay. So those are the three questions I'm going to pop up there. Can everybody see them in the chat? Awesome. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to give it like one more minute and then I'll let everybody, then we can just kind of get started for today. Anybody have questions at this point? Did everybody submit their proposal so far, or does anybody need help with it? Yes, no, maybe so?
So, do we have to add up our budget cash when we're done writing it?
Well, it doesn't have to be an exact figure, but like I said, your guess is not guess, but like you've been given 10,000. So you kind of want to break it down in your head. A computer generally costs a good Apple computer would cost you about $2,500. And then if you wanted a printer and a monitor and all those other things, be another 500. So you don't literally have to go on like Amazon and print up a receipt. Someday you'll have to. But for just the purpose of this project, it's more about having a general idea of what stuff costs. Same thing with like lighting and stuff that might cost you another 1,000. So those are some kind of, like I said, just kind of guesstimate what you think you're going to need. Does that help? Does that work?
Thanks.
Okay, cool. You got it.
Minutes logos.
Gotcha. All right, let's see. Oh, cool. I got some good responses already. So, Deshauna, I know you just popped in. If you get a chance, take a look at the chat. And I put some questions in there for today because we're talking about logo design. Jordan, you are eating them chips like it's your job, man. Good work. What are they, Doritos? Oh, bam. So how great's that? That is a very memorable logo. Did you just see the I don't know, other than Post Malone getting that sweet Doritos tattoo on his face. But that's actually really good. Did you ever see Doritos did a commercial where they took the word away and it was just a triangle? That was actually a really good commercial. It just came out a little while ago, but it just goes to show how memorable a logo can be without even having the name or the words on it. So it's actually pretty cool. I'll see if I can actually find that Doritos commercial. But yes, that's a very memorable logo. Let's see what else we got here. All right, cool. So I got some good, yeah, the Steelers logo. Actually, the Steelers, in terms of football, I would say the Steelers have a very good logo because they cater to their fans. And if you don't know this, the Pittsburgh Steelers was back in the day and still now was one of the largest manufacturers of steel on the planet. And it was a very what they call blue collar. Blue collar workers are usually workers, mechanics, iron workers, steel workers, welders, and that's where the Pittsburgh Steelers came from that industry. Hold on. I have a student texting me right now. Okay. All right. I'm going to let this student know real quick. They're asking if we're having a class right now. So the Steelers, yes, they created a logo around the community of people where the team lives, and that's a really good thing. It's actually funny. I have on the list here of some bad logos. You'll see the what do you think? Steven, what football team do you think has the worst logo?
The worst football team logo. I'm just gonna say right off the bat, LA right now.
Okay.
The Rams.
So let me give you a hint, everybody. In my opinion, the worst NFL football logo is a team that doesn't even have a logo. And it's not Washington. There's a team
The
out
Browns.
there. What's that?
The Browns.
You are correct. Congratulations. So believe it or not, the Cleveland Browns do not have a logo. It's just the color brown, like poop. So if you think
Oh,
about
fun.
it, it's hard to sell merchandise without a logo on it. But it is funny. I'm surprised to this day the Cleveland Browns has never really thought to change up their logo. But hey, I guess if it works, you know. So let me see. Sorry, let me just hit this student one time real quick and let him know that we are in, and then I'll get started and share. I'll share my screen with you. I have some cool stuff that I can show you that I got off the internet to kind of show you about logo design. All right. Well, I don't know why I'm not getting his message right now. Huh. Okay. All right, 2 seconds. All right. I have a couple students texting me right now, and then I will get started. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So let me get started here. Okay. So yes, so we just started talking about it a little bit, but yeah, we're going to start talking about logo design. But before that, like I said, hopefully everybody here is well on their way to getting this workspace design project chugging along. And I'll tell you, I'm impressed with some of the written proposals that I've gotten, and I'm actually seeing some really nice designs. But you know, take your time with it. It's actually not due until the end of next week. I give everybody a little bit extra time to kind of, you know, let's be honest, enjoy this holiday coming up. I personally don't want to be on a computer on Thursday and Friday. So, you know, take a little bit extra time, you know, watch the tutorials that I provided, things like that. But, so, you know, work on that. But I also mentioned this a little while back with Mr. Folk and myself is, we're going to be sending you out a survey. Which I think is important because, you know, the only time I really talk to some of you is when you're on class right now, but, you know, sometimes it's not the best place to have a big group discussion. So I'm going to send everybody an individual survey. And, you know, what they say about surveys is be careful what you ask for. But I really want to know, you know, how you are taking the program right now. You know, what could we possibly improve? What could we do better? What do you like? What don't you like? You know, because I'll be honest, I was a little, if you couldn't tell, I was a little bit salty yesterday. Just because I just feel like, you know, I have quite a few students in the program that literally haven't logged into Schoology since October. And I feel bad because some students really just aren't connecting with the system and understanding the process. So, you know, I don't want to see that happen to anyone. And like I said, get a bad taste in their mouth about career in tech ed and what it's all about. And you know, I get it because, you know, everybody that wants to go to tech, they want to go because it's a hands-on environment. They get to learn cool stuff with cool technology. And unfortunately, we just can't do that right now, except for, you know, distributing the laptops out next week, which, like I said, will make a big difference. So please, long story short, when you get the survey, you know, take your time, think about it, take a look at it, and let us know what we can do to help you out, make it better. But I'm going to jump over right now, and I'm going to kind of show you one of the things that I am going to change based on a few students that I've already spoken to. Actually, my returning students that come into class, well, that were coming into class up until this week. So let me share my screen with you real quick. No questions at this point. If you do, put them in the chat, please. But I will jump into my screen sharing here. Okay. Okay, so everybody should be able to see. This is the classroom page. I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect when I do the live sessions every day, but I'm trying to think, how can we break this down even more? Because I know one of the things that I've heard from some of you is that you feel like we're dumping out way too much stuff in one shot. And it's like, oh my God, I have to go through all this for 2 weeks. So, we call it breaking things down. We call it chunking. I don't know. It's kind of a goofy name, but so what I plan on doing going forward after this project, because it's too much to go back at this point. But I'm going to break these down a little bit more. So you start to see this on the page, and I'm just going to I actually changed this last week. But when you see where it says days 1 and 2, I'm going to end up, doing, and it's not, I know it's going to sound like more work, but it's not. So at the end of days 1 and 2, I'm going to put out a thing saying, please submit your rough written proposal so we can take a look at it. And then after days, and then when you're done, you're going to submit your proposal. And then after, days 3 and 4, I don't do days like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because you never really know what day we're going to be on because of holidays and whatnot. So I'll do days 3 and 4. I want you to brainstorm your idea for your design. Now, my returning students see this stuff and go, no problem, I'm on it, I know what to do. Because they were in my class for almost a year and they get it. And they had me over their shoulder kind of showing them what they needed to have done. So I feel like obviously you didn't get that yet. So I feel like I'm putting too much out there for you to try and do. Would you agree with that? Like, would it be easier to try and break things down a little bit more for everybody and say every 2 days I need this, I need that? Just type it in the chat for me, please. But would everybody feel that'd be a little bit better if I just broke things down and like in 2 days do this, in 2 days do that, and then send you links and things. So if you could just put something in the chat for me, I would super appreciate it. But I think that's what it's going to be. So the cool part would be is next year, when you return and we're all happy and we're actually in the classroom, I can give you an assignment and say, do this, 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 and you'll know what to do. Okay. So that's one thing we're going to do is we're going to break it down, make it a little bit easier for everybody to do. So like I said, you'll see where these things will be broken down into days and whatnot. And then same thing for lectures, because it does look like a lot of stuff's going on in these lectures. So here's the vocabulary. I'm going to start covering that a little bit. Once we start getting into, actually you're using the Google Draw right now, but these are some names of some of the things you're learning and using in that program right now. But like I said, down here, it says days 2 and 3 using vector-based software, where at the end of this day 2 and 3, which would be right about here, I would put a small assessment in there to test to make sure, A, most importantly, you watched it, and B, you kind of comprehended what was going on. So it's not like I'm adding another project. I'm just going to do a little quiz or a checklist or a match them up and say, do you understand what we just covered in here? As far as the vector quiz, we'll probably do that at the end of next week. So I'm going to actually cover the vote because I'm almost, I'll be honest with everybody, I'm fried right now. We're trying to get all the paperwork done, all the schoolwork. I'm actually, since I'm home, I'm helping both my sons out with their schoolwork. My son's actually graduating this year, so I'm doing all his financial aid paperwork. That took me almost 2 hours last night. I thought it was going to take me 15 minutes. But I guess, when people are trying to give you money, you got to fill out a lot of paperwork. And the reason why I bring that up, it's a lot like the proposal that you're all writing for the bank. I had to write almost a 2-hour-long application on why my child should be able to apply for loans to go to Monco. He's going to go to Monco. And, what schools does he go to? What hobbies does he have? What are his grades like? What are his future goals? How is he going to achieve those goals? So, there's reasons why I make you do all this stuff because of, it's relevant. And like I said, I told my son, I'm going to apply for grants and scholarships. And then if you don't know does anybody know what a grant or a scholarship is? What's the best thing about it? What's the difference between a student loan and a grant or a scholarship?
You don't have to pay back on student loans?
That is correct. So if you get a grant or if you get a scholarship, you don't have to pay it back, which is awesome. Now, scholarships, they usually say you have to have a certain grade average or you have to be in sports or you play chess, or you're in the robotics club. But as long as you meet the criteria of having certain grades and attendance, you get free money. Grants are one-time things. Usually you never have to pay back. I'm actually trying to apply for grants right now for my son because he's graduating. He's diabetes and he has type 1. So he's had it since he was 5 years old, and he has to check his blood sugar every day. So it's a lot. But I just one day searched scholarships for diabetics, and I found some stuff. So he has to do, he has to write an essay or do a short video about who he is and what he wants to do when he grows up and all that stuff. And, it's funny because it's like you have to write a 2-page essay. And he's like, oh, that's a lot of work. I'm like, but it's for $5,000. So if you think about it, you're getting $2,500 a page. So that's a really good way to try and look at those things. But so anyway, kind of going back to what I was talking about. We'll start that vector vocabulary next week and we'll do the quiz. But as I said here, you'll start to see after the days 4 and 5, I'll link it from Schoology, and there'll be a small assessment at the end or a little essay question and say, what did you learn something about, building this type of studio that you didn't know? Okay. So, as I mentioned, we're just trying to make things a little bit easier, a little bit more interactive for everybody. And hopefully we'll be able to, keep just chugging along through the marking periods and enjoy this. So let's jump in. So now that I covered that, so I'm going to be providing y'all with some links to some stuff that I found that's pretty cool in terms of, let me bring this back up here a little bit. That keeps coming down all the time. Go away. I don't know why that does that all the time. All right. So I found some, and I'm going to supply you with this at the end of class when I get done showing, when I get done the video today. But I found some great videos. This is actually for Google Drawings, how to create a really nice logo in Google Drawings. So I will eventually go through that. I'll provide you with this today. But these are some really nice step-by-step instructions on how to go and create a logo, using Google Draw. Okay, so that's a pretty nice little feature there. And then I have some other things that I can, okay. And there's some other things about actually what goes into a good logo. There's some really good principles to keep in mind. What do you think, and do me a favor, just type them in if you wouldn't mind. What do you think are some good, important things to know when you're designing a logo? Like, what are some good rules of thumb when you design a logo? If pretend you got 100 people looking at this thing, what might be some good ideas when you create a logo for your business?
It has to describe you.
Absolutely. It has to relate to what it is. Like, for example, if you want to be a photographer and your logo has a unicorn, I don't know many unicorns that are for photographers, but if I did, I would probably hire them. So make sure your logo is relevant to your business. If it's a bakery, you put a cupcake in there. If you're an auto mechanic, you put a wrench in there. So, just make sure it's relevant to what you do. What else about the logo itself?
Like not too big or something like that?
Yes. So Ariana's picking up on something I taught last year. If you can make a logo look good, I'm going to doodle. If you can make your logo look good the size of a quarter, right there, then it'll look good at any size. So for example, if you went and created a logo that had, a cityscape in it and a sunrise and a sunset, well, what's going to happen when you shrink it down to the size of a quarter to put on a business card? It's not going to look good because there's way, 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 way too much stuff in there. So one of the most important things you can kind of think about is sometimes simple is better. You don't want a really complicated logo, okay? So let me show you a couple examples here. I love to look at this stuff. I love to look at great logos, but I especially love to look at bad logos. You always learn from your, in my opinion, for me, I always learn more from my mistakes than my successes. But if we start up here, these are some really good corporate logo examples, okay? So some that have been around since the beginning of time. How funny is it to see You know, the company GE, right? General Electric. They've been around since 1892. Their first logo, I couldn't even tell that that was a G and an E. But how funny is it over time? Do you notice something about it? There's not a lot of change in it. It's not very dramatic. Okay. So they're very, they once you get a good recognizable logo, stick with it. Don't keep changing it. Another one, I'll skip over this. I don't care about them. Facebook. Did anybody know when Facebook started out, it was called the Facebook? Yup. It used to be called the Facebook, which is kind of weird. That's like I'm going to the supermarket. Yeah. So they changed it to just Facebook. Like I'm going to the Instagram and the Twitter. That sounds like something old people say. So, you know, Facebook is nice. It's a decent font, but the one thing that's what's more recognizable than the way it's written is what? And you can put it in the chat if you want. It's the color blue. I recognize that color blue all the time now. Like when you see a little, like if you look at a web page and you see all the social media icons and you see that blue one, what do you see? Facebook. Twitter's is very similar, but it's a different shade.
And as they change as they change the Facebook,
Yep.
it's like when it's white, it's like more clearer.
Yes, and that's a real. You know what? I'm glad you picked up on that too. Hold on, I gotta turn my speaker up. So the words here were a little bit too smushed together, and now you might be saying to yourself, "It looks fine to me." You have to imagine young kids are going to be looking at this. Old people, not me, older people are going to look at this and say, "Can I see that? Can I read that?" So it's not just, and it's a shame because some of my students are like, "Well, I can read it. It looks great to me." I'm like, "Yeah, but you're 17 and your eyes are amazing." Okay, so you have to remember, type is a really, really, really big deal, and I'll show you about that. So, you know, we'll scroll down a little bit and look at a couple more. ExxonMobil is a gas company. They had, you know, their logo used to be the whole name. And then what happened to it? It went to one word, and then all of a sudden it went to the Pegasus. Okay, so visual references are always great. It's hard to pull off a logo with just a name to it. Now look at Amazon's. How funny. I hate to say it, but I was young enough to remember that this is what the logo looked like. Now, type in the chat for me. Does anybody remember what Amazon.com used to sell? That they only, back when they started, they only used to sell one type of thing. What was it? Type it in the chat. You get a gold star for the day. Emmanuel, you are the man. Books. That's all they used to sell were books. They were an online book company. You can only buy books, and then it started with music. So you could buy CDs, but it was books and CDs, and then eventually they started selling pretty much everything you could possibly think of. I didn't even know they existed back then. Yeah, it was pretty old back then. I think Amazon.com started out in 97 or 98. When you're in the class next year, I'll tell you about my life working for the internet. Before I got into teaching, I was all buried in this stuff, working for a big internet company that eventually got bought by eBay. And our company at the time was actually bigger than Amazon. But it was a pretty cool experience. I was in my 20s working for the internet. And now I'm passing all this great information to you. Microsoft, everybody knows them at this point, and their terrible software. You know, so moving on, Nike, everybody knows Nike. Everybody knows the swoosh, right? You don't even have to have the word Nike on there anymore. You could draw a swoosh and you know exactly what it is. And people, you know, can you imagine being an advertising firm saying, really, we just paid for you to design that? But it's memorable and it looks awesome. So there's a bunch out there. BMW's changed just a little bit over the years, but just enough where it looks a little bit more modern. You know, if you look at the current logo on the end, it's got a nice shine to it. It's got dimension. It's got shadow instead of this flat logo. The 70s and 80s, I don't know what those people were on back then, but it is not a very nice looking logo. Okay. MasterCard. MasterCard's a really nice one. And here's a cool one. So this is the last one. I'm gonna show you some bad ones. But check this out. Does anybody know the secret behind this logo? There's something hidden in there. Do you know what it is? Type it in.
Is it the X? Wait.
You're close.
They're all different colors.
Hold on, I'm gonna look this up real quick. Hold on.
Mm,
This is gonna blow your mind because I was shocked when I saw it. Because stand by. I want to bring up a big picture of this right now. Nope. See, it actually shows it right here. Logos with hidden designs. Oh, come on. Taking forever. Hold on. One more time.
100 years later.
I know. It's like killing me. You know why? Because everybody in the house right now is literally on the internet taking class. So I'm,
No,
I guess-
I see it. I see it.
what is it?
There's an arrow when it comes with the EX.
You are correct. Look right there. There's an arrow. So because what is FedEx? They're a delivery company, right? So there it is. There's an arrow that they put in there on purpose to show that they're moving forward and they're delivering their package to you. I literally found this out like 3 years ago. Mind blown. But it's pretty cool. So there's some pretty neat ones. There's actually a link. I'm gonna dig that up too.
I never knew that. I never knew that was an arrow.
I know, right? That's pretty cool. And I'm actually gonna find a link. Logos with hidden. I'm gonna send this to you because we don't have a whole ton of time today. But there's a lot of logos out there, believe it or not, with hidden symbols in it, which is pretty cool. Maybe I'll show this to you tomorrow. Actually, I'll save it. So let's go back to where I was before. So we got some. I want to find some bad ones. So here's some bad ones here. Examples of poorly designed logos. Now, Bing is terrible. It just looks like it's smushed. It doesn't look like a G. I don't know what that is, but Badass Cowgirl. I don't even get that at all, but wherever that's from. The Buffalo Bills is okay. I don't know what this shape is supposed to be in its head. I'm on the fence. I kind of like the Taco Bell one. I don't know what people are hating on Taco Bell. I personally like it. But you'll see there's some funny ones in here, some bordering on inappropriate designs and things like that. And it's funny how people will design this stuff and not realize. So let's jump over to here. There's some I have to zing through because they look really bad. Now look at this one, the London Olympics. I can't even make that. I don't even know. It looks like broken glass all over the ground. That was for the Olympics, for God's sake. So you have to be aware, when you're looking at these logos, what's good and what's not. But this one is just a mess. So you can see who did it professionally, who didn't. I love somebody made a joke about the Pepsi one. It looks like a fat kid. So, if you look at these, there's some good examples and some bad ones. Let me find another one. Some of these I can't even show you. Portland Trailblazers, that's just a mess. I don't know what's going on there. The logo for this satellite company is hilarious. This one, it just goes to show you how important it is to put spacing between your letters. Spacing between your letters.
Go Sticky, look, it says kids sex change.
Yep, that's what it looks like when you don't space the letters out properly. Okay, so I don't know,
It's kids exchange.
Yes.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Same thing here.
Oh.
This looks like a giant butt sitting on top of a building. So it's funny when there are some there's Cleveland Browns. So there's some very important things you have to remember when you design logos. Okay, there's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of bad ones. So here's some good redesigns, and then I'll end it with this today. But there's some really good corporate redesigns that are kind of worth looking at, where companies went in and kind of modernized their logo a little bit. And KFC is a good one. Starbucks. Now, over the years, Starbucks has made some pretty significant changes over the years, but I really like their logo now. Back when they started, it was this weird brown color with a mermaid with two tails. not that great. But they definitely find ways to, some companies thinks it's a good idea every 10 years, every 5 years to keep reinventing themselves and changing their logo. Okay. Google actually started out with this type style, and then it's more sleek and it's more modern looking, and it's very simple. And what's the cool thing they do? Every day they change the logo, right? They do it to celebrate a famous person, a significant day in history. I go on Google just to see what they do. There's actually a high school Google design contest to design a particular day, and you can win money. So it's a pretty cool thing. You can actually type it in and go Google Design Contest. The yellow pages, not that they even exist anymore. So ones that they did not do a good job. I used to like the logo for the Gap. I'm not really sure what's going on here now. It doesn't look very good. Kraft always had a great logo. I love their mac and cheese, but their new logo looks like, I don't know, like a rainbow threw up. So you have to be aware of who you're selling this stuff to. Kraft Foods looks just like this yogurt company. Pretty funny. MasterCard, not very. I like the old one, to be honest with you. It looks better. So just some ways to kind of show you what's out there. Oh my, that can't be real. To show you what's out there, what looks good, what looks bad. So that's really what I wanted to show you. And when we're done today, I want you to take a look at Schoology, because I'm going to apply these links that I just sent you, as well as tips for effective logo design. So this is a good one here. And I kind of went over these really quickly, but the first thing, for having a good logo is know your brand. And we already covered that. Know what you're selling and who you're selling it to. If you're doing audio and sound, you should probably have something in there that relates to it. Okay. Be original, be inventive, but know your brand. I hope you know your brand, because your brand is you. But we will work on projects where I'm going to ask you to create some logos. One of the things I like to do too is our classroom, we make sweatshirts, and I ask every year for students to design a logo for the program. And if you win, you get a free sweatshirt, and then the rest of the class gets your logo on their shirt. We talked about that. It reflects the nature of your business. Impression is crucial. Your logo should make a lasting impression on the market. Just a glance would be enough. So once again, like I said, if you have a really complicated logo and you glance and look away and you're like, I didn't really soak it all in, I didn't really get to see it all, then it means your logo's too busy, it's too complicated. Okay. Color is super, super duper important. Okay. When you do a logo, and I'm going to type this into the chat, and this is super important to remember. Okay, so take a look at what I just typed. Why do you think that's a big deal? Like if you had to make a 4-color logo, let's say your logo was going to be a rainbow, what do you think some of the issues would be? Now think about your market and all these different methods and ways of getting your product out. If you had this amazing full color logo, what are some potential issues that you could run into? And you can put them in the chat if you want, or you could just blurt it out.
People would think it would be a over splash of rainbow colors.
Well, you know what, Jordan? Yes, and Jordan's off to a little bit of a hint too. Sometimes too much color is bad. And I know none of you know this because you probably never had stuff professionally printed. The more color you have in a logo, the more expensive it's going to be. So if you have a 4-color logo, a 1-color logo is going to cost you, say, $50, right? What do you think a 4-color logo is going to cost you?
100, 200.
Yeah, 200. Because every color is its own cost when you go to print it. Now, I generally tell people never do a logo with more than 2 colors. Black is a color as far as I'm concerned when you're making a logo. So it could be black and blue, red and blue. But if your logo looks good in as a black outline, then it's a good logo. Like think about it. Nike looks good. Reebok, Pepsi, Coke, those all look fine. But if you did that rainbow and you had, let's say you had to print it on a business card and you can only afford to have it done in 1 color, now you have a problem. So make sure, sometimes you're like, man, this color looks great. I got all these cool colors. It might not look good, especially if you get a t-shirt made. A 4-color t-shirt is very expensive. So keep that in mind. Don't put colors in there just to put them in there. If you think, if the color is crucial, like if you call it Audio Blue Company, well, guess what? You should probably have the color blue in it, okay? So keeping those things in mind are pretty important. Here's the thing, and take a look right here, and this is really important. This is pick your fonts carefully, pick your type carefully. So if you look here, there's some really cool type styles out there, but it doesn't mean you can read them. Like this one here is an actual font that people pay for, which blows my mind. I can't read this to save my life, okay? I could if I really stared at it. But if you think about it, who has a really, really easy to read website that is very simple, very elegant, and very plain? Apple, okay? They don't have crazy fonts and type styles, okay? Everything is here. It's more about their product, okay? The type looks good, the color looks good, the background is black, the type is very simple and easy to read. That's what looks good. And Apple's logo is what? Apple's logo used to be full color. Now it's just a black outline or a white apple, okay? So kind of keep that stuff in mind, okay? And then kind of last but not least, choose what type of logo is it going to be. Sometimes it's great to start off with a shape. Should it be a triangle? Should it be a square? Should it be a circle? Should it be an oval? Sometimes it's really good to start off with a shape and then try and fill that shape with it, okay? Now, like I said, I'm not going to ask, this isn't going to be due until next week when everything else is done. So start kicking around in your head, and I know it sounds crazy, with a pencil and paper, and start sketching stuff out. It takes way too much time on the computer because you're only limited to what you know about that program. When you go to draw, you pick up a pencil and a piece of paper and you can go to town. But sometimes, like I said before, simple is better, okay? Not to say to make a simple, goofy logo, but sometimes simple does work better. So if you jump over into here and you're in Google Draw, okay, you can just literally start out, like I said, with some shapes. You never really know where you're going to go with it. Now, like I said, I would highly suggest you sketch it first. But let's say I'm a photographer and I want to create a logo and I want to start with this shape. Well, what are some of the things that I could probably do? Well, this shape, what does this shape kind of start to look like is, hey, maybe I can make it look like a camera. But guess what? Everybody's logo that's a photographer looks like a camera. But I'm just going to try and show you to get my point across right now. So you can start to say to yourself, okay, this is a pretty cool, beginning to my piece here. Now, my name, or I could put my initials in there. And please, like I said, don't think that this is going to be the world's greatest logo that you've ever seen, but it's a good way to kind of start to think about, what you're going to do. Now, here's a cool little, I could put a little gleam on the lens. You know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of a shine to it. Okay. So, it's all about just kind of messing around, putting 1 or 2 colors in there. I thought I was going to like that color. I definitely don't, mute it down a bit. And then I could go, put my initials in there. And then start to think about, okay, well, here's my initials. Move that over a little bit. Whoops. And then start to look at the different type styles that are available. I think I like that one. That's pretty cool. It's all about trying. Now this, I would probably not use, right? Doesn't look very good to me. It's not something, but this is the cool part about working on the computer and sketching. There's no wrong way to do this. To start out with brainstorming, I'm just trying to come up with ideas. One of the best things you can do too, honestly, is just start going on the internet and looking at logos that you like. If you want to work in the audio field and you want to be an audio engineer, look up some companies on the internet right now that have some really cool logos. Not saying steal from them, but take inspiration. There might be some really good stuff out there that you can draw from to get you started on your path. So when you get a chance, start to sketch out and think about some cool logos that you want to do it. And look, just because you make this logo for the first time doesn't mean you're going to be stuck with it forever, but at least, it's something to build upon. And that can at least get you started on your journey to having a nice logo, by the end of the school year or by the end of the marking period, by the time you graduate. It doesn't mean you can't do like Starbucks and all the other companies and change it over time. But it's good to have something, because then you can start making stickers. You can start putting this logo on your website. You can start putting it on your business card and all kinds of stuff, and people will remember who you are. Okay. Any questions? I know I went a little bit long today, but as you can tell, I love logo design. I love the design stuff. And this is, really useful stuff for you, especially in the future. And once again, you can even put this on your resume to show people, and they'll have that logo to remember you by. So hopefully you guys like this today. It was pretty interesting, my opinion. Like I said, I love looking at bad logos. But I will save this out for you, and I'll post, the assignment to create a logo, and that'll all be done, like I said, at the end. But and then I'll have one more class tomorrow, and then we'll have a little bit of a break until the following Monday. Sound good?